I've already.
Yeah, you know.
Not really though.
Taylor, you might have to help me with turning this back on.
Press image. Yeah. Yeah, image show and yeah, there you go. You're good.
All right.
Okay, I swear we're good to go.
Okay, good. Taylor, you might have to help me with turning this back on.
I sent it out, but do I need to send it to somebody else?
Yes.
Jamie.
Jamie
Friedman?
Zerker.
Okay, I'll send it.
Family law. Yes. So family law.
Okay, everyone, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Okay, first, we are gonna start off with resignations and appointments. I'd first like to acknowledge the resignation of our Director of Communications, Claire Oliver. We'd like to thank Claire for her service. She did such an amazing job this summer and at the beginning of the school year, getting everything just up and running with comms. The newsletter has been a great redesign, and all of her different designs and the headers, most of the headers that you see on most of the documents were designed by her. So we thank her so very much for everything that she has done, and we wish her the best in her future endeavors. Now we're going to move on to the swearing in of our new VPs. So if y'all could rise, and Chief Justice, if you could. Okay. So I state your name, do solemnly swear. I state your name, do solemnly swear.
I, Amanda Padilla, do solemnly swear
I, Blake Bierman, do solemnly swear
That I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of Vice President
the office of Evening Vice President
the office of Day Vice President
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and promote
preserve, protect, and promote
preserve, protect, and promote
the ideals and Constitution
the ideals and Constitution
the ideals and Constitution
of the New England Law of Boston
of the New England Law of Boston
the New England Law of Boston
Student Bar Association.
Student Bar Association.
Student Bar Association.
So half a second too late that I also do not call before the swearing in of Representative Paul Ruckert. So
No problem.
I state your name, do solemnly swear.
I state your name, do solemnly swear. I, Paul Gruner, do solemnly swear
That I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of 3L Representative
the office of 3L Representative
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and promote
preserve, protect, and promote
the ideals and Constitution
the ideals and Constitution
of the New England Law of Boston
of New England Law of Boston.
Student Bar Association.
Student Bar Association.
Congratulations to all of our new additions. We are very happy to have you here. We're now going to move on to roll call. If you are here, please state present and voting if you're voting. President Hall, present and voting. Day Vice President Bierman,
Present voting.
Evening Vice President Padilla,
President voting.
Treasurer Smith,
President voting.
Chief Justice Davidson, Associate Justice Young,
Present.
Associate Justice Campoyala, present. Representative DeBacco,
Present voting.
Representative Huffnagel, present voting. Representative Maroon,
Present and voting.
Representative Patel, present voting. Representative Fuentes, Representative West,
Present and voting.
Representative Jed,
Present and voting.
Representative Heinke,
Present voting.
Representative Hill,
Present voting.
Representative Han,
Present and voting.
Representative Espinola Jimenez,
Present and voting.
Representative Ostrander,
Present and voting.
Representative Ideali, Representative Grunner,
Present and voting.
Representative Sharp,
Present voting.
Representative Williams,
President voting.
and Representative De Los Santos. So now at the conclusion of roll call, we're going to move on to the adoption of last meeting's minutes. I believe they were sent out with the amended agendas. Can I have a motion to vote?
Motion to vote. I could have everyone in favor of approving the minutes, please raise their hand. Okay, lower your hands. All those, lower your hands. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Could I have all those in favor raise your hand one more time? You may lower them. Thank you.
With that, the minutes are adopted. So now we will move on to officer reports. And I will start. So I have just general update on this new organization fair. The first part of it was today. I feel that it was pretty successful. We had a pretty decent turnout, a lot of students flowing in and out throughout the day, and we're able to learn more about our committees that we have to offer. We're very excited to continue that tomorrow with this new organizations coming in, and hope that you all continue to let your class know about that police fair and that they can come to the cherry room on the second floor and meet our orgs. And again, that's going to be tomorrow from 12 to 4 in the cherry room. Next, also, if you have not completed your DEI training yet, please complete those materials. I'll be checking you at the end of this week. If you were on the email list, you got the email. If not, then you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Don't worry about it. I'd like to bring an update about an idea that was brought at the last meeting about a potential pop-up bookstore, but for a fundraising idea that was presented by, I believe, who was then Representative Padilla. I took the idea to the deans in our meeting that we had last Wednesday, and they liked the idea. They were pretty excited about the idea that students are wanting to wear union long gear and are looking forward to making that happen. So they essentially signed off on it and connected us with Jennifer Kelly over at Church Street, who's going to help work with fundraising chair, as well as the reps who had the idea, bring that idea to life. So that's something that you can be seeing, you probably will be seeing very soon. And that is fairly exciting. The next issue I'd like to address is the COVID concerns and policies. Last meeting, I was asked to reach out to the deans about just the official COVID policy. There was concerns that students were coming to school after having tested positive for COVID because they were concerned that they might be counted as absent or be marked over that 20% absences that's allocated by the ABA. And I was able to take that to the dean and get their advice or guidance on it. And essentially I was assured by the dean that every case is reviewed on a case-by-case basis for COVID and medical issue concerns. And that if you are over if you are experiencing excessive absences or you're over those five excused absences, that reach out to student services directly, and they will review it on a case-by-case basis, and they will not penalize for the excessive COVID absences. But of course, there will need to be proper documentation required for those absences.
I have a question, just a question. Do you have to be past that number to get reviewed, or like if you're under that number?
Yeah, so I was told that excessive absences over the allocated 5 absences won't be penalized if it's due to a medical or the COVID issue, as long as there's proper documentation that can be reviewed. But student services does review it on a case-by-case basis. So if you have constituents or if you yourself are experiencing these issues, reach out directly to student services, and they will see to it that your class schedule is amended to reflect your proper absences. The next thing was the U Will therapy. So I checked with the deans, apparently it has been renewed. So if you haven't gotten your renewal for the U Will therapy, please reach out to student services again directly. Figure out what's going on with your account. We also brought the idea that of token sharing, so that students who didn't use their therapy, their allocated free therapy for the semester for the year would be able to, like students who did use it or wanted more would be able to use those unused tokens. That's something the deans are going to look into to see if it's possible and if you will allow for that for our school. Live streaming, we have figured that out in our current live stream. Vending machines, I spoke with faculty facilities about the vending machines and the issues that we were having last week. They said that they looked into it. I heard that apparently there are still issues. I've just had some issues myself with the vending machine, so I'm going to be, again, reaching back out to them to see what is up with that and see what the quickest update we can get on that. There was also the idea that note takers would be note takers. Some of you may have gotten a request that in some of your classes, administration is asking for people to become note takers for people who have requested accommodations. And there was questions as to whether that would be compensated. Apparently there's more details coming on that soon. There's going to be an announcement where there will likely be some sort of compensation for note takers as an incentive for people to assume that responsibility and provide those notes for students that need the accommodations. I believe that is the conclusion of my report, and I yield my time to the Day Vice President.
Hi, everyone. My name is Blake Bierman. I'm the new VP. I will be receiving my credentials today. So any pending business that organizations have will be able to reach out to me via the daily email from hopefully tonight moving forward. I look forward to seeing all the organizations at the fair tomorrow. And I hope to work with all of you to make sure that all of our organizations are in compliance and make that process as easy and seamless as possible. So really looking forward to working with your organizations as well as reps. I should be posting my office hours for this week sometime soon. So feel free to stop by and introduce yourselves. I'll now yield my time to evening Vice President for the evening.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anthea. I'm just echo Blake. It was nice to see you guys today at the fair. I'm going to be doing all of the committees. And yeah, I still have the same office hour of Monday 12 to 1, but I'm also adding in Tuesday 12 to 1 also. So yeah, nice to meet you all. Happy New Year. Thank you. I'll yield my time to the
Okay, hello. Quick reminders, T-Pass pickup started this week. So I imagine a lot of you all have been passing out T-Passes during your office hours. That'll continue through the end of the week. And then I also have 2 things on the agenda to vote for that I'm going to pull up so just everybody can see them. The very first one is the Budget Committee Rules of Order. This is something that I have worked on that's been voted on by the Budget Committee. This is essentially what the guidelines for proposing organizations and committees budgets and the rules that we followed when evaluating organizations and committees budgets. And so I'm just going to seek a motion to vote on these.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. And all the lower them. All those opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay, well, thank you all. And then finally, I have the SBA budget for the year. This is in general the budget that as it stands right now with the current balance of our SBA funds, and then how much the budget committee has voted on and approved to disperse to organizations and committees, along with our organization supplemental funds. The supplemental funds are is essentially what is the rollover, so that in the sense that if an organization needs supplemental funds for an event that they did not know they were going to need, that's what's counted for. General Assembly fund is for any funds for us to use, whether it's for office supplies or etc. Carryover balance is essentially what I expect at the bare minimum that we carry over into next year. I expect that to be a lot more, but at the minimum, in order for the SBA to keep running into next fall, that is what we need. And you obviously see the total allocated, the remainder, and then what I anticipate our rollover will be into next year. And then in the materials that were passed out today, you can see the total itemized. This is a breakdown based on each organization and their proposals, along with how much they asked, how much the budget committee approved. And then if the budget committee voted to change how much was approved, the reason is given in the notes. And this is for all current active organizations and committees on campus. So now I'm going to seek a motion to vote to approve this budget for the year.
Motion to vote.
Actually, a motion to table, but now that the motion to vote is on the floor, we will motion to-
You can still motion to
we have
table.
a motion to
All
vote.
those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's all of them. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Any abstentions? Passes.
And with that, I believe that is all the updates I had as treasurer. So I yield my time to Chief Justice Davidson. Thank you all.
Hello, everyone. Don't have much, just to welcome our two new vice presidents, Vice President Bierman and Vice President Padilla. As well known, the election concluded on Friday, the results going out on Saturday. And as Vice President Padilla was uncontested, in the evening, Vice President Division, the Elections Committee was able to choose, it was under their discretion to forego an election that should have been contested. And so now we have invited her to join our e-board, and we're very happy to have them. That is all I have. So I yield my time to President Hall.
That is the conclusion of officer reports. We're now going to open the floor to representative reports and start with the 3L representatives.
So we originally didn't have anything, but now we just have 3 small points. Actually, one of them was already remedied. We had a 3L student who was not allowed to have her absence excused because of COVID, but now I'm sure I can clarify that it's probably because she had less than the 5 absences or the 2 absences during the class. I'll tell them to reach out to them. But then there was also another concern with office hours on Monday, and I told the individual that today everyone was going to be in the cherry room, but somebody on Monday was going to go pick up their T-Pass, and they went at 9:30. I told them no one was in here. They went at 11 and a couple more times throughout the day, and no one was down there. So we just and then also That's okay. And then a couple other students had questions about other bar prep services like Bemis, Kaplan. But they had concerns that they weren't able to table, and the reps that are, the student reps that are representing those bar prep companies were concerned because they weren't able to table because Barbary has some sort of preference with the school, or it's like a preferential treatment, and they are able to table more and something like that. So maybe that could get brought up with the deans. I'm sure they probably know.
Currently, I believe Barbary is our official rep. We have that relationship with Barbary that it's almost an exclusive pause. I'll check in with the deans more to see if we would be able to open it to, I believe, Bemis. Was that?
Yeah, it's, I mean, all the other, it's Bemis, Kaplan, and I'm pretty sure there's one more, I'm not. Yeah, they usually table, but I guess in the last month, there's been a problem with them not being allowed to table as much, or if at all.
And the office hours concern, Chief Justice Davidson and I will looking into that and check, and making sure that office hours are being served when they're supposed to.
I will apologize. The Monday issue was me, and I wasn't aware of whether I was on my way back home or back to Boston from home, but I was also unsure before I was sworn. What happening?
Point of clarification, there is at least 1 hour of those days that was allocated or was excused. So that will be conveyed. But if there's other hours that are being missed, we'll just do a quick audit or quick account of the hours.
I was there, and I was there before, and everyone came in, so I don't know if they're I was there.
Yeah, I'll ask. And you just said you were.
It has the agenda for y'all report. Yep.
Just on solvency with the team, communication, how is that going to work out?
So currently, because there is no Secretary of Comms, and that's not necessarily a department in which I'm adequate enough to take that up, the newsletter is going to be delegated out to a rep who's volunteered to take on that. But for the most part, there's going to be an email, an auto response email that if there's further detailed concerns that is other than this addition to the newsletter, that position is just vacant. And that if it's an emergency or if it's something that can be addressed by myself, that they can always reach out to me directly to the SBA account, which is the general account, and that email will be directed to who it needs to be directed to. Now that we have an administrative assistant who is actively checking that email. But because the current comms is, the position is just vacant, that department is currently unoperated at the moment until someone submits their application materials to Sudan. Oh, and that, I guess, also addresses an thing that I should have brought up in my present report, which was the follow-up for the question about the installments that was raised by the 12 representatives. The installments will not be continued. That is something that will pass on to whomever should decide to assume the role of director of comms. But as there's currently no one in there, there's no one to actually actively check that and put those in the restroom.
Just to double check, the installments was just like the calendar that's on the internet, right? Or is there additional stuff that was on the calendar?
Well, for the internet calendar, that's only used for the submission to the newsletter. That's still going to be in place. If organizations or committees or anyone wants to advertise their events, they would have to submit that information to the internet calendar, submission to the newsletter for publication for the next newsletter. So that's where the internet calendar is.
Sorry, the installments are like the ones that are in the
Like,
map.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like the plan where it's.
Yeah.
Install. Anyways. Yeah.
So that completes all of it.
Yes.
So we have a few. So I know you touched on the COVID policy. I think we request if possible that an official email be sent out, just because
although we have told many of our classmates this, a lot of people are still freaking out about COVID and people coming in and some people ignoring that. So just kind of like a little there. Vending machine issues you already touched on. So, I mean, just the issues with the actual physical like function of them, and then the refilling of them and stuff like that, because a lot of times they're pretty low. And then concerns about major religious holiday recognition and accommodation, such as like recent Jewish holidays were not accounted for with the school and people were not able to take off. So I don't know if there's any possible thing that we can do, but there's been concerns expressed with that, and other religious holidays as well being recognized. And then some students requested hot chocolate in the student lounge if possible. I think that, I mean, if not through SBA, potentially through the mental health and wellness like food pantry, I could probably talk to Linda about that as well. But if we can do that through SBA, that would be great. And then some students have expressed some concerns with the extended library hours only being during finals periods, just because they close early on like Fridays and Saturdays, and some people don't have an adequate workspace at home to be able to focus and do their school properly. So I'm not sure how to properly address that, but those have been some concerns we brought up.
Yes, I can take the extended library hours, the major religious holiday recognition and accommodations to the deans. The official COVID policy, I was emailing Dean Peter Curl about that. There will be an official email policy sent out, much appreciated. And as far as the hot chocolate, I will pass that along to them to see if they could get that special request added for the pantry.
Okay.
Representative.
It's okay. I am wondering, we used to have hot chocolate in the lounge. We used to have a coffee vending machine that had hot chocolate and tea. So I'm wondering what happened to it, if anybody knows, if we could get that brought back. That would solve a lot of issues. Yeah,
It was brought to our attention during the budget hearings that the coffee machine, in their attempts to maintain its supply, the coffee machine had broke at some point. And then there was, brought back, but I think it was just more of respect towards what was being provided. And if you're going to use it, be respectful towards it, clean it, put your stuff away. And if it breaks, let somebody know. And so I think that sometimes it would get broken and people wouldn't speak up. And so there was some in it along with proper supply as well. So if it is ever low or diminished, please let mental health and wellness committee know, as they are working very hard to keep the food pantry stocked and available. But I think there's also just some, be respectful of what's there as well.
I'm talking about that big one. There used to be a huge one in this space where there's now like a shelf.
I know nothing about
Yeah,
that. I can speak for the Keurig. I
It
can't
was like
speak.
it was like cash only. It was like $1 for hot chocolate and tea. It was great. But I figure it probably broke also at some point.
Oh, I like that idea.
But it literally like it just disappeared.
Point of order, I'll mention this to mental health and wellness and they can talk and we can give the specific recommendations for which type of hot chocolate and coffee we can have in the lounge. But yes, we will take those things first.
Speaking more on the point of our concerns over COVID, I know, for example, a lot of people are concerned that if someone has COVID in our class, as we have experienced already, is that there's no way of knowing aside from them telling everyone that they have COVID, which isn't really fair necessarily to the class themselves because we're totally relying on one person to report something. While I do like all my classmates so far, that's kind of a hard burden to bear and to wait upon. And it's also not really fair for them to have to report it because then they have a name and they disclose that information. Also, there's concern because people have missed class in person, but we're able to attend via Zoom, that doesn't count. We don't find that to be a fair way to execute it, as if a professor is sick, they can go on Zoom and it doesn't, you have to be on Zoom too, and if there's no hindrance to them. Not that we want a hindrance to professors, but more so that even if we are attending via Zoom, which was done for a long period of time throughout COVID, that we still don't get counted for it. We don't see that as fair.
Concern. I know that the concern about the notification policy about COVID was brought up last year. It has been being brought up since COVID. It's been a thing here at the school. And I believe the policy was that it was a close contact notification. So that way students, if a student tested positive and they alerted the administration or alerted the school about it, that the students that sit within proximity of them, right next to them, would be notified of it, but there wasn't going to be an announcement sent out to the class at large for privacy concerns. But I will definitely take it back to the deans to see if there can be more concessions or accommodations made for that, because as you said, professors do oftentimes sometimes when they need to hold classes on Zoom, and if it's working, why not?
Can I readdress as well? I remembered one other concern is that in the policy itself, the one that was sent out to students, the one that you had to access the internet for, which also is maybe an extra step that should be removed because it is a bit of an obstacle, is that it mentions what to do if you're exposed, if you're vaccinated, or if you're unvaccinated. It mentions what to do if you haven't, but you're unvaccinated, but the policy fails to mention what the protocol is if you're vaccinated and get the virus. How long you quarantine for, how long you wear a mask for. That's not in the policy.
And also, like, if you are vaccinated and you come in close contact. So we had a classmate last week or before who got COVID, and then the people sitting around them were not, like, they did not come to school because they were afraid, because they were in contact with that person that they don't want to, like, spread it. And even though the person who did have COVID, their attendance might be accommodated, the people who were in close contact did not want to then spread it to the other classmates if they did not show up. And I don't know how that would work with the attendance policy, just to add to his point about Zoom attendance.
I'm trying to get all of that down. And we will take those concerns to the dean. Just one quick point of order before I call on Representative Moran is that points of order please need to be called on, so that way we can keep record of who's speaking at the moment and for the minutes and for the record. Representative Moran.
Sorry, for some reason I got muted again. I just wanted to mention for COVID, I don't think it's enough to just inform the people around that specific person, because we never know who's interacting in the hallways, you know, who they're friends with, who they're sitting with. So I feel like there should be some kind of, I don't know if we can like have a Google form or something anonymous in which students can submit that they have tested positive for COVID, and the entire class would be informed, just so that the people with immunodeficiency disorders, people who are, I don't know, pregnant or have health issues can at least take their precautions, come to class wearing a mask or two, you know, just so that they're aware. Because, okay, like, maybe the people sitting next to them in class are more exposed, but that doesn't mean that they're the only people who could be exposed in general.
Understandable. That's a very valid concern, and it will be taken directly to the deans.
Thank you.
Does that conclude 1L? Yeah. So that's the conclusion of representative reports. We now move on to old business, which I believe we have already taken care of during Treasurer Taylor Smith's, I don't know what I said, Treasurer Smith's report. So we will now move on to new business, and we will begin with the introduction of the probationary bill for a new student organization, if, when, how. Treasurer Smith, if you can speak a bit to this bill as it was submitted by, just introduce the bill.
Yeah, so if when how is an organization seeking probationary status starting tonight. And so the Constitution was sent out in the materials. Does anybody want me to pull it up like this second? Okay. If the president or a member of If When How that's here would like to speak to If When How, please go ahead and speak now.
My name is Alexis. I'm a 1L here at New Law. I'd like to
established a chapter of Infant House here in New England. Infant House Employers for Reproductive Justice is a national nonprofit organization for law students, professors, and legal professionals committed to fostering and activating the people experts in reproductive justice. Our goal is to use all of the legal theories and organizing tools at our disposal to protect and defend people who are criminalized in any reproductive health related services and specifically reproductive abortion. We ultimately want to change the system itself, which disproportionately affects communities of color and people with low income. This organization mobilizes tens of thousands of law students and lawyers around the country in the service of reproductive justice, racial justice, and sexual and reproductive autonomy. We work to ensure that all people are able to create and sustain a family and finding how they want to. How Reproductive Justice Warriors Network is an organization that trains and mobilizes legal professionals to work for reproductive justice. The RJLN is currently working on several social initiatives. Infant House is a network for like-minded law students to advocate for bodily autonomy, personal freedom, and trusted institutions to seek to control our bodies and treat us with our rights, and to provide students of New England law experience to advocate for reproductive justice here at the school. It's my intention to establish this group to unite organizations at the school with a common goal fighting for reproductive justice. I know that the school has a lot of organizations that have common goals, common beliefs for bodily autonomy. It's my intent to partner with the Women's Insurance Advocacy Project, as well as any other interested campus organizations, Outlaws, Jewish Law Society, the Women's Law Caucus, any other interested groups who are interested in working toward reproductive justice, sexual autonomy, abortion rights. We are working under the faculty guidance of Professor Wendy Murphy, and she is also the director of the Women's Insurance Advocacy Project, which is part of the Center for Law and Sexual Autonomy. The national organization has a lot of freedom to choose which project we would like to take on. There are several other chapters of other law students in the Boston area. They've already reached out to me and other members who are interested in doing the organization and expressed interest in helping us should be approved at New England. They've done letter writing committees. They have helped change the usual language in bills. A lot of what this organization does is really help attorneys and give law students the experience to go into the field of reproductive justice. As we're in the beginning phase of deciphering how we will best serve the New England law community, it's my intent to make this group open to the members of the community, members of the group, to see how we can best use our unique experiences to create the community experience that helps best serve the community. So it's my goal to unite somebody under the common goal of reproductive rights.
Does anybody have any questions about the organization for the?
Now, your presentation of the report, we're going to be motioning to bring the bill to the floor for debate, in which anyone can raise their questions, concerns, comments for review.
Second. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns for the Infant House bill?
So right now, they're working to overturn Harrison Gray into a Supreme Court case that upheld the constitutionality of the Hyde Amendment. Hyde Amendment is a bill that prohibits Medicaid coverage for nearly all abortions. They are assigning tasks to law students at all universities to work on or any outlet, any chapter of it, to work on with attorneys, to work on federal bills, to work on state bills, to take these cases to court of health overturn Harris versus Gray. The Hyde Amendment is effectively a ban on the right to abortion for people with low incomes. So, the Boston community. We also want to eliminate barriers of parental involvement in the Bishop White House. So, younger people who are seeking abortion, they wouldn't have to go through judge. That was something we see popping up. And they also want to send representatives for people who are criminalized for self-managed abortion. So, student representatives of it went out help to amendment drafting testimony, and they work with the applicants to get these legal services.
When is there a possibility that students receiving this for 1 hours through
So, if when how, the worksheet become part of the CLSR, I think that we could receive for 1 hours, but I think that's not.
I'd have to double check.
I'm sorry, can she please come a bit closer to the microphone because I think there's voice isolation, so her voice has been cutting off.
Thank you.
Sorry, thanks.
Thank you. I think if we were part of the CLSR, we would be able to give students transcript distinction. You would have to commit to 40 hours per school year, which could include meetings, any kind of service projects that we might take on. Obviously, we would like if when how to exist in any capacity at the school. We want to do any work that we can, as much work as we can. We would like to partner with any groups that we can in any capacity. So pro bono hours, you know, if we can get them, we'll get them to anybody who needs them.
Representative Brown? Oh. Understood. Are there any other questions? Motion to close debate and vote on the probationary.
Motion to close, motion to vote.
Second. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower them. All those opposed, please raise your hands. And any abstentions? The bill passes for probationary status 19-0.
That you're not probationary pretty soon, the new DVP will be reaching out to you on the next. So with that, we move on to the next probationary bill, and that is for the Federal Bar Association. I will speak to this as I submitted this bill on their behalf. The Federal Bar Association reached out, I believe Matthew was here to present on their behalf, and they reached out very early in the summer to get started to potentially bring this org back to New England Law, Boston. Apparently, at some point, there may have been another organization. We weren't able to find any of those old records that they had lost status a couple years ago. So we're happy to try and get this org back, and with that, we look forward to.
Great. So my name is Matt White. We are looking to bring back the Federal Bar Association back into our school. I'll be working with Maria Lombardi, myself, Laurel, Professor Friedman, and Professor Michella. You may or may not know Professor Michella is the contract rep professor here, and he is now the president nationally of the Federal Bar Association. So one thing he's really trying to do is establish a presence in law schools. So he is looking to take New England as a test program to start re-implementing this now, which is great for schools. For additional programs specifically, we're looking to get going is coordinate additional workshops, implementing skill-based programs to get people in front of judges for mock arguments and skills. Taking part in how to get in-house jobs. A lot of people don't think that's possible straight out of law school, but me personally, I've worked in insurance defense now for 7 years. Discussion that happened yesterday. And lastly, taking parts in getting panels here to get how to get jobs with the Department of Justice and other governmental entities. We're lucky to have Michelle as a resource here in New England, who's now the president nationally, and his connections can benefit us tremendously, I think. So yeah, in addition to getting these, if we get these 4 programs up and running, He already has 4 other schools that got nationally that we're going to start implementing these, and we're going to help train the Federal Bar Association and give them training materials on how we did it in our school and how they can implement it. So, along with just gaining school recognition on a national level, the connections we can make through this organization, judges, government officials, other lawyers.
Without the motion to bring this person forth for debate. Anyone have any questions?
Clear what the day-to-day looks like. The associations at the bar association. Awesome. Just really simple, like, kind of how that would look with the presence of on campus.
The presence on campus, I think we would be getting judges on campus, we'd be getting in-house recruiters and other in-house attorneys on campus, say what they're looking for. So, it may not be as difficult as right now as students. So we're really looking to bring these lawyers, judges, government officials onto campus to help strengthen our network. Is everything, connections is everything, that's lawyers. So building these relationships, one of our main goals. Here, that's going to go along with it.
Connection with the Federal Bar Association as well, or how does it?
This
work?
is pretty strictly on a federal level. So it's totally separate from Mass Bar, Boston Bar Association.
Motion to vote.
Motion to vote.
Second. If all those in favor, please raise your hand. Those are them. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Catch Stephanie's hand. No, I only caught
She
Jasmine.
raised it
Could I have-
for-
Okay, can I just have everyone in favor, please raise your hand one more time? Okay. These are them. And the bill passes for probationary status with a vote of 20 to 0 to 0.
Thank you all.
Congratulations. Next, we're gonna move on to the next probationary bill, and that is for the J. Reuben Clark Law Society Foundation. I believe that was submitted by our Chief Justice.
Yeah, so the J. Reuben Clark Law Society is taking probationary status on our campus. According to Professor Hansen, in the past, they were present on our campus. So we're seeking to have them again. And we have Jamie Zerker here on their behalf on Zoom. So I give my time to Jamie.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to join you by Zoom. So basically, the J. Reuben Clark Society is dedicated to the study of law, incorporating your personal convictions and acting according to, being able to act according to those convictions and protecting that right. So many of you know in the First Amendment, it protects 5 basic freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of press, petition, assembly, and religion. And the J. Reuben Clark Society is affiliated with there are several other student chapters in the Boston area at local law schools. And it is part of a national organization that is focused on protecting the freedom of religion. And I know that, sometimes we think about religion as a method or a mechanism to persecute the non-religious, but the J. Reuben Clark Society is actually dedicated to a greater understanding of religion, and then that particular freedom, freedom of religion in the First Amendment actually is protective of non-religious individuals, if not at least the same or if not more than religious individuals, recognizing that it's about freedom of conscience, the freedom to act according to your own conscience, and that sometimes that conscience will lead you to faith and other times it will lead you away. Regardless, the freedom to follow your own conscience gets to the heart of what it means to be a human being. So in the organization, some of the objectives are to promote interest and awareness of issues presented regarding religious freedom. And then some of the main goals are to promote fellowship among students, faculty, and community members, to represent student needs and wants in regard to the rule of law, to provide a forum for the representation of religious freedom law ideas and programs, to hold informational sessions for religious freedom law related topics, and to reach out to the legal community about services related to the protection of religious freedom. This is an affiliate organization. It's typically affiliated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And there is a professional organization that it's connected to upon graduation from law school. There is no requirement at all whatsoever to be a member of any kind of religious organization, to be religious in any way, to join the J. Reuben Clark Law Society. And we have a non-discrimination policy, of course, to make sure that that is incorporated and what's the word I'm looking for? That's clearly stated. Anyone is free to join, anyone who is interested in protecting First Amendment rights. And it's really all about affirming the strength that is brought to our study of law by incorporating a student's personal convictions, and how as we work, we're passionate about things. That's why we're in law school. We're passionate to protect and to help people who don't have a voice, to make sure that underrepresented populations have opportunities to be heard and to have the protections that are offered through the Constitution. And this society is mainly focused on, like I said, First Amendment rights and protecting that right to live according to the dictates of your own conscience. So that's it.
Motion to bring the bill to the floor for debate.
Motion. I'm just confused what the day-to-day look like, and I guess what I don't know what the difference between this would be and some of like the other groups that we already have, because we already have like I don't know. I just am confused as to what the day-to-day look like with this.
That's directed to me, right?
Yeah.
So day-to-day, I think it's pretty similar to other affiliate organizations like the Jewish Law Society. I said that wrong. I'm sorry. I apologize. I do not remember. Is it just Jewish Law Society?
Jewish Law Student Association.
Okay. Jewish Law Student Association. So similarly, like the day-to-day opportunity for people to gather who are Jewish for the Jewish Law Society Student Association. Similarly here, there are actually several students at the school, including a couple of professors who either graduated from Brigham Young University, which is where kind of the flagship organization started, or who belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So support, I guess, day-to-day, just similar to like getting into having activities and providing an opportunity for those students to connect with each other and feel like they have some support on campus.
Okay, so is the group just for, are you trying to do the group so that way members of the Latter-day Saints could meet together every day? Because I figured it says, I guess, in the bill that it's for non-religious people also. So I guess I'm just confused by the whole thing. Sorry.
No, it wouldn't be like a daily meeting.
Well,
I imagine sorry, go ahead.
I'm not saying that it would be a daily meeting, but you were comparing it to the JILSA. I'm confused with it as if this is an organization that's founded for the Latter-day Saints religion, or if it's just for freedom of religion, because I guess your response further confused me, but I can also keep going.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to be confusing in my answer. It really is for anyone who would like to come and feel connected, and I guess, sorry, I had a visitor that, so I lost my train of thought. No, okay, so no, you do not have to be affiliated or connected with any church or in any way to be a part of it. It's more about gathering people or an opportunity to come together and discuss the First Amendment, the protections of freedom of religion in the First Amendment, and how that comes into play as we study law and as we go out and work in the field. Was that less confusing or more confusing?
It's okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can I just have a, so strength brought to the study of law by students' personal religious conviction. Are you saying, I want to say this in a way that doesn't diminish religion. Using religion or religious beliefs to study the law, or like like basing, this isn't like promoting the basing the study of law on religious convictions, correct? Like using religion to interpret law and stuff like that.
Correct. No, yeah, it's about studying the law through the lens of your own personal conviction to help you, I guess, reach out and like we're all studying the law, and we all have come into law school with our own beliefs and convictions, and so I think maybe I'm wrong, but maybe what you're asking is like, do you have to be religious to incorporate personal conviction into your study of law? Like, I'm not talking about wow, I am not articulate tonight and stumbling over my words. I apologize. I'm not like good on my feet, and trying to articulate what I mean is just not going well for me right now. It's more about affirming the strength that comes to us as we live according to our own belief, whether that's religious or not.
I think just as a point of clarification, similar to, I think what Jamie's trying to get at is similar to with JILSA. We don't all have to be Jewish. We have members that aren't Jewish, but it is also a space for us to connect as Jewish people, but we still welcome anyone. Similarly, the J. Reuben Clark Law Society is a space for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to come and connect with each other, make professional connections, but that doesn't mean that everyone involved necessarily needs to be a member of the church. Just point of clarification.
Yes.
I just think that their constitution may be a little misleading then because it's, I don't, at least to my knowledge, it says nothing about the Church of Latter-day Saints. So I think that's what started my confusion because I just thought it was a freedom of religious group rather than a Church of Latter-day Saints group, which is okay, but I just feel like it may be a little misleading.
Maybe for a little clarification, from what I understand, it sounds like a law society that's devoted to freedom of religion. First Amendment, specifically freedom of religion, that happens to be founded by a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Yes, I agree with what you said, and I agree with the clarification. I think that's my understanding of it as well. But I would also agree with that it is a little bit just vague. I think the word that is the word I would use in the sense of like I'm reading the mission statement and then comparing the mission statement to what we've discussed tonight, and I don't really see them matching up too well. So I guess my suggestion would be to kind of add some clarification to the mission statement or, make some changes or edits to the Constitution. I'm not opposed to this organization coming to the school. I think there just needs to be a little bit more clarification as to like what it really means and what its presence is. And obviously, as stated tonight, any person of any religion is welcome to join, but maybe emphasizing the fact that there is some additional support to people who belong to the Church of Latter-day Saints because of the fact maybe of its founder or just some explanation there to tie in why the religion is being brought up throughout the organization's involvements.
Representative Williams.
Yeah, I was going to state too, I kind of was going to put my hand down because I think everyone also stated it. I understand, Jamie, what you were trying to explain, but I think the way you have it phrased or the way you guys have it phrased in the Constitution, if you can add maybe a historical or a background context to kind of say where the name comes from and just where a little bit about the history and the founding of it, I think would add more clarification on how the religion plays a part into the mission, but how the two things are mutually exclusive, how they don't have to be a part of the religion to be a part of the organization, but at least add in the Constitution the history of how the religion formulated the group. And I think that would kind of help people more so understand.
Representative De Los Santos, then higher first point of clarification. Can we get an acknowledgement of Representative De Los Santos' attendance to the record?
Thank you. I want to say they really flown. Not surprised with that. My apologies on happening again. But I just thought that Jamie, to your point, and everybody else, I just thought the name Jay Rubin, the prominent leader in the Mormon Church or the Latter-day Saints Church, I could see why they felt the need to leave that part out. So I think you're familiar with religion. I think that you know Jay Rubin was part of them, so I can see why they left it out. But I don't know if we should really harp on that just because someone looking for that organization, you'll do your research. Oh, okay, this is what they're about. And if you're looking for Mormon support, not Mormon support, but Latter-day Saint support in finding your community, you'll see that name automatically gravitate to it. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be listed out, word for word in the mission statement, but
To your point, I feel like if they're trying to reach a student body, not everyone's going to know that. I have a lot of friends who are from the Latter-day Saints community. I know a lot about Latter-day Saints community. I didn't know anything about Jay Rubin, so that's why for me, if you're reaching a student body, maybe just putting that in there, just so that way people also know that. That's just
Yeah, one, just quick suggestion to go on with those. I think it just might be helpful to mention that the law school at BYU is the J. Reuben Clark School of Law. Just to kind of bring that all together for those who may want more clarification on maybe the history and on the history, etc.
Wait, just for clarification, you said BYU, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I just have like an administrative question. If we were to want to approve them, but not at the moment, would an objection ban that, or would they be able to come back if we were constant?
Of clarification, probationary status is meant for, or with that status to be able to amend their constitution and their mission statements so that they may come back and petition for full status in 2 weeks. And so we may see those amendments then.
For point of further clarification, during this process, this is just saying that yes, they can start having events where they can now start marketing themselves to the student body, and that during this process they would have to have the official vote where they have their president, meeting liaison, and treasurer appointed by their membership, and they would have to vote and ratify their constitution and mission statements. So all these debates, all these points of clarifications would then come back at the next meeting where they would come up for permanent status. And if those changes are not reflected, your vote can reflect your agreement or disagreement with that. So with that being said, I'm going to motion to close the floor to debate and vote on this probationary bill.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower them. All those opposed? Abstentions? Please lower them. The bill passes for probationary status with a vote of 15 to 0 to 5. Congratulations. The JBT will be. Congratulations. The JBT will be in contact with you soon about the very next steps. So with that being said, we now move on to the agenda to the Outlaws resolution. So at the end of last week, I received an email from the president of Outlaws pertaining to a meeting that Outlaws had with administration regarding the issue of gender neutral bathrooms here on campus. As you all may know, we only have 2 gender neutral bathrooms. They're both located on the bottom floor in the basement. A little inconvenient to get to. You have to go through the library. We scan in to get to them unless the cherry room is open, which it is because the activities fair is going on. But in the meantime, you generally 98% of the time you would have to go through the library as opposed to having accessible bathrooms on the 3rd floor and the 5th floor as every other student does. And I want to reach out to, and I was largely waiting for the swearing in of the DVP to reach out to Outlaws to see about scheduling a meeting just to get more details as to how that meeting with administration went. Specifics on what was said, specifics on what was requested. But because I received that email, because this is an issue that is happening, I know that Outlaws is going to have their town hall, I believe on the 29th. And 29th. Or they're going to have the town hall where they're inviting the student body or people who have strong opinions on this to come and basically offer their advances on it. But I wanted to bring it to the GI to propose a resolution. The idea that SBA would draft a resolution. One of the 3 legislative activities that SBA does is resolutions where you can draft a statement of whatever. It could be a statement of support, a statement of denial. Denouncing something, it can be about anything regarding organizations, anything happening in the greater world. And I wanted to see if the SBA or if the GA would be open to drafting and adopting a resolution in support of Outlaws for this issue. And if the GA would
like me to take this to administration to see if we can have the signage on the third floor changed, and make those, and designate those bathrooms as gender neutral bathrooms, for all students to use. So, I guess the idea, so the question is to bring motions, bring this to the floor for debate as to whether or not we should adopt a resolution, of support. Does anyone have?
Just like a question about, would a committee be made for this, or would it be specifically on the board that puts this together, or that's working with Outlaws, or how is that?
So it would be delegated to the vice president, who's, I'm gonna have reach out to the DEI committee as well, as Outlaws is an affinity group, and the DEI committee works closely with affinity groups as well as Outlaws themselves, of course, will have, say, in the drafting of resolution, and the resolution would be then brought back to the GA before it would be passed, as official for review. So that way, we can debate on the language or any of the provisions in it, or whether or not this is something we would want to pass and put SBA's approval and full support behind.
Just to clarify, we're voting for it to just be brought to us to vote on again in the future. Like, this is just like a general.
So I want to add it to the agenda for next week. So that's something to vote on.
Logistically, would we change both the bathrooms on the floor to gender neutral bathrooms?
Yeah, the idea that was proposed to me, because this is something that many constituents have been bringing up to me, and different ideas on what they could, we could potentially do, and those are ideas that I definitely want to discuss with Outlaws and with a particular student who is charging the concern, that I don't want like us to come up with the solution for anyone. I want them to be the ones charging and spearheading it. But the idea was that the signage on both bathrooms would be changed so that people would use whichever one they feel the most comfortable with.
It would be for not just a third floor, but also
Just the third floor bathrooms. I feel like that makes a statement as opposed to, because that's the most common bathrooms being used. It's the one right off the student lounge. It's often the one that receives the most activity. And I feel like that's a statement that is going to offer support to any students who don't necessarily identify with the traditional gender roles that are designated on the bathrooms, that you're seen, you're heard, you're appreciated here, and you're welcome to use any bathroom if you would like.
I guess just rather it be for the whole school, because then I feel like people would then have to go down to the third floor, and I feel like then it's the same thing going down to the basement. So I guess like if we're gonna make a statement, I would at least more support it being for the whole school rather than just the third floor.
Thank you. That is something we'll raise to Outlaws and the committee and everyone that's going to be involved in this, and the drafting of this resolution as a potential option for adoption. And point of clarification, this is not like we could just unilaterally go change the signage on the door. This would be passing the resolution that we would send out and take to administration, as this is something SBA wants and needs to see happen as soon as possible. Motion to vote on the drafting of the resolution. Second. Sorry.
And could I have everyone in favor, please raise your hand. Lower them. Opposed? Any abstentions? Vote passes with a vote of 20 to 0 to 0.
And with that, that concludes the Outlaws resolution. We move on to the Space Law Society status appeal. As you all may have noted from my email that I sent out earlier, this was a recent addition to the agenda. Normally, agenda amendments are only made if there's extenuating circumstances and the president approves it, or the GA by 2/3 majority allows for the emails or the information materials to be distributed to the GA. Given the circumstances regarding this case and just in the name of decorum and efficiency and full transparency, after consultation with a class representative and the e-board, I decided to allow for the amendment of the material, the agenda and the materials to be sent out this morning. So you should have had the chance to review them today, if possible. And essentially what it includes is the Space Law Society's request for leave accommodation. It includes my decision denying that request for leave. The materials also included the e-board's affirmation of that decision, and it also included materials submitted by the Space Law Society interim representative president, Dennis Mabey, who is here to present his appeal on behalf of Space Law. I also included the general relevant SBA bylaw provisions that will be brought up tonight as well. And just to provide, oh, actually, I don't even have the chance to review it. With that, I'm going to give the floor to Dennis, who will present.
Did we pull up the information onto the board? Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to the microphone just to make sure this is clearly heard. I will start talking while that's going because I understand that you are busy people. Thank you for adding me to the agenda. First and foremost, I really appreciate this. I've been working for over a month now trying to get this resolved, and I just want to move on with my life. But I also, you know, I care about this a lot, maybe more than I should. And I want to make it clear that I'm not here to attack the SBA or any of its members. But I do believe that I was wrongfully stripped, or that this student org was wrongfully stripped of its status. And the crux of that is what is in the information that I showed. Because in addition to all of the extenuating circumstances surrounding both the president's leave and my own health issues, that I think is an abundance of, of cause to grant leave. There's also the fact that the original denial was based on misinformation. This is email number 1, right there. I'm unsure why it seems that this information was not on the SBA's record, because I had this. I don't know what happened to it. I'm not here to speculate about what happened to it, because the point is that it's here. And this should be game changing. And all those materials are really the more technical side of things. But I also want to take time to give the more human side of things, because at its core, that's what we are. We're all just human law students doing our best to represent our particular groups and our interests. And I did my best with the Space Law Society. And I want to continue, and I think I can continue to do better if given the chance. And basically, I acknowledge that I should have done more last semester, but I disagree that I reasonably could have done more given all of the circumstances. And I don't want it to be overlooked that at its core, to me, as somebody with numerous chronic illnesses, this is a disability justice issue. This is ableism. This is those core values. So this means a lot more to me than it might to other people, because I know that I should have done more. And I just want the recognition that I did all I could. And again, given the circumstances, I just want to come back. I just want to do better. I just want to move on with this. I want to be at the student org and be able to tell people that the Space Law Society is active. We're alive. We're happy. We're excited. Join us. Fairly had this passion for it, and that's what inspired me to join originally. And I didn't know she was going to withdraw. And I wasn't followed up with at all from anybody up until the question at the very end of the semester about the e-board. That was the first and only time I heard from someone. And I understand that ignorance of the law is not an excuse, but please, given the circumstances, given everything, if there's an exception possible in the rules, isn't this the exact thing it's for? I think it is. So please approve my request for leave to comply. That way we can just move on. Thank you. That's all.
Just a couple of points of clarification before we motion to move the floor to, motion to move the bill to the floor or the appeal to the floor for debate. The question on the table is not whether or not Space Law Society should have lost status. The question is whether or not the GA wants to overturn the executive board's decision to affirm my denial of leave. If you turn to the amended agenda, the policy that we are currently going to be, I guess, debating on is whether, the relevant provisions under chapter 9 of the bylaws. Three, 4. So basically, the stripping of the status of the Space Law Society wasn't a decision made by the executive board by Constitution because the requirements were met or automatically lose status. Organization presidents under 9.4 can request for leave to comply, which I received a couple weeks ago. I issued my opinion based off of that, which we can discuss during debate. And then the student, Dennis, requested for an appeal of that decision, which then went to the executive board who rendered their opinion. And now he's choosing to appeal that decision. So that's the question, is whether or not we're going to overturn the executive board's decision to affirm my decision to not grant leave, if that makes sense.
Clarification of if we do overturn that, what are the next steps?
They will be granted the request for leave to comply, and essentially the same steps that would be taken to regain status at this point would be the same steps that would essentially we have to take, which would be the submission of the e-board, and that's pretty much, I think, all the requirements that's missing.
Oh, no, I. Her question.
Super fast. So if they don't get the leave, they can still come back and ask and apply for probationary status as every other organization can do when they're first starting their organization.
Yes, the student has been informed multiple times as to the next steps as to what would happen. I've outlined them myself in the opinion that you saw. The Chief Justice has also outlined the next steps, which would be just to submit the e-board as well now as a bill if you just choose to deny the leave. A bill before the GA where the big three would have to come and present the bill, and you would vote, and then they would regain their status.
This may be a stupid question, but given that this is an exception to the Constitution and the rules, due to certain circumstances, does this impact those rules and the Constitution anyway?
Exception of what?
Because the rules were not abided by in this instance, from my understanding, and what the org needed to submit and stuff like that. So
yes, so any organization is allowed to request leave to comply with the requirements. So it wouldn't necessarily affect the Constitution or bylaws in any way, since that option is open to any organization who fails to meet the requirements in the previous year.
It's written under chapter 9.4 for good cause. The president of the SBA may grant leave to comply with any of the above provisions, which are the requirements that orgs have to keep their status, to any student organization that shall request it. This decision is appealable to the e-board. So that's where we are. I received that request for reply shortly after the school semester began this year. I issued my decision, e-board issued theirs, and now we're on the appeal of their decision under 9.1 of the bylaws. Any more points of clarification?
What was the e-board's decision? I think I missed that part.
The e-board's decision was to affirm my decision to deny the.
Okay, so should we vote, no, we want to give them the opportunity? It would go back to, never mind, I'm caught back up. I've caught myself.
I thought there was a question.
Yeah, so my question is, I'm kind of not understanding what the difference would be between like the process between kind of saying that we want to disagree with you versus just for them to restart the process? Is there like a big difference between the hoops they're gonna have to jump through?
I think the only difference would be the drafting of the bill at this point.
Can I speak to that,
Which
please?
we've already offered. I will in a second point of order. I'm just clarifying a few points of clarification before I move it to debate where we can present your arguments and all arguments. At this point, the only thing that new would be the drafting of the bill, which I believe Chief Justice Davidson has offered to draft or help draft for the Space Law Society. Any more points of clarification? Okay. Motion to bring this appeal to the floor for debate.
Motion.
Second.
With that.
Okay, so to answer your question, the difference is the core disability piece here. One of these, even if they seem the same to you, one of them says that serious medical concerns that the ADA recognizes as valid for accommodations that both Fairleigh and myself are receiving accommodations for are not cause. You're voting on the issue of cause. If these severe health things aren't cause, I don't know what is. And I also want to note that while I have had it explained to me numerous times what I could do, I also was suggested to me that I should do the leave to comply thing, and I'm following with that. And that came from the Chief Justice herself. And if she, she believes in that, please just with a little bit of empathy here. This is bigger than just my student org. That's what it means to me. I know that it might not mean the same to you, but that's the difference at the end of the day.
I will call on you. I'd just like to clarify the basis on which the decision was made. The original decision denied the leave because that was my decision. In doing that, I took into account the information that was given to me at the time, which was that at the time I was informed by Dennis that he Fairleigh was supposed to come back at some point in the semester. He was receiving communication that she may come in 2 weeks or maybe not, and then it ended up being.
That's not true.
That's
not true.
Point of
misspoke. I don't know.
Order, so we'll have one person speak at a time.
That was verbally told to me. The only email communication that I received, you all have, and which I'm CC'd in. And the official request for leave, I didn't receive any of that information. I just have on behalf of Space Law Society, I'd like to request for leave compliance. Most of the information that was filtered to me was filtered through the former DVP or through the Chief Justice because emails were being sent directly to them rather than to me. I never received the official request for leave until the 7th of September, as you all indicated. As you all also saw in the material submitted by Dennis, Fairleigh did withdraw and inform SBA of that withdrawal. And she also noted that Dennis would become interim president at the time. And so with that knowledge in mind, that there was an interim president at the time, I believe that he was the vice president, but even so now knowing that he was the interim president, I felt that him being on the executive board, not saying that this is a particularly one student issue, but the whole executive board of Space Law Society, based off of their own constitution, had requirements that they had to fulfill to hold an election by the spring, by the end of the spring semester, last semester. Fairleigh's withdrawal was submitted by January. That means they'll have the whole second semester to either ask for guidance on how they can hold an election or to ask for leave for the upcoming requirement that all orgs know they have to hold an election at the end of the semester. Included in his materials, he even said that he wasn't as organized as he should have been, or there were more work that should have been done on behalf of Space Law Society. And I felt that that was accurately reflected in the fact that it wasn't as if it were a simple member in the organization who wasn't aware of anything that was happening on the e-board. This was someone who was CC'd and told by the SBA was going to be the interim vice president.
But I didn't know what was required of me for that. This is insane.
And all the requirements of orgs are told to them when they apply for status. They're posted in the Constitution that is posted online. All orgs know that they have to have an election by the end of the year. If not, there should have been some communication as to why that election didn't happen. That wasn't given even in the response to former Vice President Bobbitt's email where Dennis acknowledged himself as president and then the treasurer would be continuing on. That was information. Oh, my apologies on the materials that you submitted. That email was replied, it was cut off. And so I assumed that it was in a response. But even in that email, if it wasn't a response, you sent it and acknowledged that there was a treasurer and interim president, but that an election hadn't taken place up until last week. I don't believe the election had taken place. And so even until the start of the semester, there was no solidified e-board. So that is why I made the decision to deny the request for leave. I wasn't aware of Dennis's personal medical issues. I was only told that Fairleigh had cancer and that I should have had to grant the reply for leave. But at that point, Fairleigh had already withdrawn at the beginning of the semester. And I felt Space Law Society had all semester to figure it out. So that was my basis for denying leave. Dennis.
Thank you. That was a wonderful work of fiction you had there. Yikes. If you look at the materials I submitted, the emails say really early on, I referenced my own chronic issues. I looped in student services early on. Hopefully every single email there was added, but just please, I know that I'm not conducting myself appropriately. I know that I'm not doing this right. This means so much to me. There's been so much double talk. Let it stop here. A lot of that wasn't true. And I submitted every single email. I have them with me. I don't know if every single one was uploaded and distributed, but I have them here in my hand. You know, I have proof that the request, that various things happened at various times, and it's all there. It was all there, at least if whatever I submitted was put through.
Point of clarification, was the 14-page document of the various email changes, that's what you submitted this morning?
Yes.
Okay, then that was what was correctly sent out this morning.
Okay. It's definitely all there then.
Representative Ostrander.
I have a few things. To start off, if you're going to a committee of any body of people and you were wanting to appeal to them, I would not be interrupting the president. I don't think that's correct. And I think that the lack of respect is kind of showing. From my problem is that if you ran for a vice presidency role, you should have ran for the right reasons. And yes, you said you did to help out Fairleigh. In most vice president positions, if you are elected, you have to factor in the small possibility that something will happen to the president, whether that be a resignation, whether that just be like them going away. Like, you have to factor that in. And in here, I felt like it was a lot of, oh, I dropped the ball, and now I'm communicating, because you didn't communicate. Like, they talked to you about the fact that even like the July 25th email that President previous yes, yeah, oh no, the yes, the villains. She reached out to you July 25th, and you did not respond until August 18th. I feel like you are in there admitting throughout the entire email. You don't have to raise your hand. It's fine. I just think it's rude you kept doing it, so I would like for you to respect me and please put it down, because it's an open conversation.
Should I? I thought that I was supposed to, so we can keep track of who's talking. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry.
I think you do know what you're doing. So a lot of what you're saying is very calculated. It's not calculated, but it's very targeted. When you start off the entire conversation saying this isn't targeted, this is not about anything, but yet you're targeting people, and then you're. Point of order. We have one speaker. I respected you, so with respect, I would like the same respect back. Thank you. They said they're missing information for a president, a treasurer, an evening liaison, and you literally didn't say anything. So if you were having medical issues, and I'm not saying that you weren't, I'm not denying that, but I'm saying that it is a lack of responsibility on your behalf of not communicating with people. And I'm an empathetic person. I understand. I am an empathetic person.
Can I make a motion to table this?
Yes.
Considering
Yes,
we have
please.
gone past
Second.
our hour?
Thank you.
Second. Can I also make a motion to allow the people that are here
You
for their
were
probationary
briefly
status
at
to
any-
leave.
You don't have to think, I should have said that earlier.
Or can I
Not-
participate in the conversation?
Morning, well, we just had a motion to table this, so we
But-
should do a vote and then we'll move to public comment. In which case,
Yeah.
Can we just vote on it and call it a day? You can deny it, it's fine. Why are you so nasty? What's wrong with you?
Yes.
Sorry, I'd just like to point of order because I feel like there's a lot of disrespect going on from all parties. So I feel like this is not the way we should be speaking to each other in a formal meeting.
The motion to vote on the tabling.
Second. Okay. All those in favor of tabling this matter, next meeting, please raise your hand. Okay, please lower them. All opposed?
Thank you.
Please lower them.
I have a question. We're tabling this to move this on to the next meeting?
Next week.
Okay.
Okay, please lower them. And any abstentions? Okay, so the vote to table this to next meeting passes with a vote of 16 to 4 to 1. Sorry, to 3 to 1.
So with that, the appeal for Space Law Society status is tabled until next week. That concludes old business for tonight. Next, we will move on to next we move on to public comments.
Hey, I have a comment. Okay, so it's me. Hey, I'm gonna speak mine on public comment. So I just want to say a few things. One, I'm a little confused on why Space Law Society didn't just, and I know we're tabling it, but I'm speaking this as a public comment because I'm kind of confused on the order. Why Space Law Society just didn't submit the Constitution and the bills last week, and we voted on it last week, and then this week we voted on it again. I'm just kind of confused. And then my second one would be in a sense of like just getting on with the organization and like the year and stuff like that. If we are going to vote, like, I just don't understand the point of tabling it in a sense, just because emotions or like, I don't know. I just feel like tabling the conversation is pushing it back a little too farther when it should. I mean, you brought it here and you amended it and you like brought it all to us to speak on today. And I think that it shouldn't be tabled. And I think maybe like we should just consider that. Y'all already voted on it, so we can't go back on it, but we should just consider that. And yeah, we have a lot of people in charge, so they should be able to control the conversation so we can get issues addressed. Because now it's not next week, but they're not going to be able to talk about this issue again for another week. So it's like, how do we move forward with this issue? Should they have just submitted the Constitution and the bill and stuff? Last week, we voted probationary status or something like that. And then we moved on from there. But it just seems like it keeps coming up when we could just address the issue. And then, yeah, that's it. Thanks, everybody.
A motion to suspend the rules to go back and vote on this matter.
I would like to be represented.
As the person that motioned to table it, I believe that there needs to be more that is fleshed out of this. And I think that my reasoning for making the motion to table it was because motions were getting high and because it is also now 9:43. And as a point of decorum for the, I forget what the rules are actually called. Robert's rules, whatever Robert's rules. We have said that this is supposed to be an hour-long meeting, and we tried to take these things and keep them within that hour. And we have plenty of students who have been up since very early this morning and have been at school all day, myself included, and have class again tomorrow morning. And we also have people that worked all day. So I think that that was part of my reasoning for making that motion. I also spoke to Dennis myself about this matter, and I do think it needs to be resolved, and I think that it needs to be resolved in a way that is fair. And I think that when emotions get high and we start to move outside of the realm of being respectful to one another, that it causes decisions to be made based off of ill will rather than actual facts.
I'm just gonna reclaim the floor for a bit and provide some context as to why this came up today. As I explained in my email that went out, the materials were, like, I was informed by a rep last night that the student planned to bring the appeal during public comment if it wasn't gonna be added to the agenda, and full transparency, so that way it wouldn't look like as though we were hiding anything or we were trying to prevent the student from being able to submit their materials. I admitted and allowed for the agenda to be sent out this morning, so that way you could have some sort of preparation for what would be raised today at this meeting. I would have liked to either table it for next week or call the special meeting itself, because an appeal is an appeal of an executive board decision of a president's decision is a bit unprecedented, that we could designate its own specific time to it. That's something that I would also consider if that's what the GA would call for, rather than allocating an enormous amount of time out of the GA meetings to do this next week as well.
My comments, just to follow up on Representative Penke and President Hall's comments in agreement of tabling, especially in regards to decorum and emotions being high. The previous meeting, we had informed Dennis that in a GA meeting, we do not speak out of order. And there is a sense of respecting those rules and respecting people's floor. And so the raising the hand, the facial expressions, it's honestly distracting. It's honestly, that's, I think, what was being touched on earlier, is that's where the disrespect comes in, because a person is supposed to have the floor to be able to speak and give their voice without the side comments and the side gestures and the facial expressions. So I think my agreement in terms of tabling is because I think there needs to be more order in terms of the respect for the space, the rules set in place that we all who were elected into these positions respect every single time we come into the General Assembly meetings. So just in terms of respecting procedure, respecting rules, and like we said, each other, I think it should be something that is tabled.
I'll take one more.
Okay, I'm Curtis Sullivan. Hi everyone, my name is Gio. I'm a 1L. Very excited to be here. Okay, so I just wanted to just make a comment and also just advocate on behalf of Dennis just a little bit. First, Dennis, I'm gonna start with you because I think that you were the advocate for your idea and you did so very poorly. I just really think that as a person, just from the onset, I don't know what the space law program is about. I know that the DART mission was successful last week, but I don't know how your program would necessarily. Please give me a second. You're good. You're good. All right, so I was just saying, you're an advocate for your idea. I think that you should have presented it in a better way, just because I didn't hear about the pros and the cons of your plan. I didn't know necessarily why your plan could, benefit the student body, and also just like the field of lawyering. So just as a point of matter, as a salesperson for your idea, I think that just going back to the drawing board and having that conversation with yourself about, the things that you can do to strengthen your communication styles and the advocacy would be definitely beneficial. The last thing I was just going to say to you all, oh, and by the way, Dennis, it is the best idea to table this, by the way. It is good for you because you made a very bad impression today. So it's better for new eyes just to come back and to try to vote on this. So it is actually to your extreme benefit that happens. BT does. As to y'all, it seems like there's no distinction between giving him or giving you the probationary status, whatever it is. There's literally no difference. If they vote against him, then he would just come back and just advocate again for this new idea with the new constitution, etc. Other way around, he would get an exemption. At best, you would just be clarifying the rules, creating an exception that would allow for persons with disabilities to have a genuine exception, allowing for future, students to be able to participate through those lines. Or alternatively, you would just ask him to come back to the drawing board. So there's really nothing to vote about other than, I understand your emotional appeal to morality and stuff, and that is very true. However, it doesn't shape or change the facts, right? It's give him the exception and for the future, I think that's all I was gonna say.
I'll take one more comment on this matter and then I motion to vote.
It's not a comment. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and make this the first point of order next week.
I second that.
Sorry, could you repeat the motion? I couldn't hear it.
A motion to suspend the rules and make this the first point of order for next week.
Okay, thanks.
Motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Second.
Oh, yeah. Any more public comments about anything not regarding this matter that's been tabled till next week?
As a separate thing, I want to apologize because once again, I let my movement get the better of me. This is something I'm working on. I've also been up very early. I received bad news. These aren't excuses. These are explanations. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being disrespectful. I will do better next time. I will come and make this appeal the way I should have. Thank you for letting me do it the next time.
Thank you for your apology, Dennis, and we will look forward to having you back next week to present this appeal.
Next Tuesday, directly next Tuesday or the Tuesday after?
Yes, so point of clarification for everyone, just so you know, next week is the holiday, so we have that weird like schedule where we have another meeting next week, back to back. So it's not just gonna be a 1 week.
Second.
Leave us alone, Gigi.
Y'all could have